Welcome to the Management Accounting and Finance video lecture. My name is Mutsawashe Mbaiwa and I'm going to present to you Performance Evaluation Part 3. So my assumption is you've gone through Part 1 and Part 2 of Performance Evaluation video lecture. So our learning objectives are, by the end of this lecture, you should be able to understand the balanced scorecard, which is a performance management tool, and its link to financial outcomes. And number 2, to understand the integration of balanced scorecard with other management accounting and finance areas. So for Part 1 and Part 2, we've been talking about financial measures and how they interlink with each other, where we talked about return on investment, residual income, EVA, and how they tie into NPV. So managers, taking back to Part 1, managers could take actions that cause short-term increases in the measures used but are in conflict with the long-term interests of the organization. And benefits of actions taken in the current period may not show up in the long-run performance measurement. So in deriving a performance management system, an entity should consider whether the measures align with the company's strategies, whether measures are consistent with compensation schemes, and whether measures have been added that assess what competition is doing, known as benchmarking. So all this, trying to align our measures with the company's strategies, will help us achieve a long-term focus of performance measurements. So there's need for us to adopt strategies or ways for reducing short-term focus of performance measures so that the measures align with the company's strategies, which are long-term. So number 1, divisional performance should be evaluated on the basis of economic income, that is the present value of future cash flows. So in line with this, there is need for an entity to adopt economic value added, which incorporates many accounting adjustments to reach to the economic income to use for measuring divisional performance. Number 2, to reduce the short-term focus of performance measures, there might be need to lengthen the measurement period. And last but not least, an entity should not rely excessively on financial measures, but should also incorporate non-financial measures that measure those factors that are critical to the long-term success of the organization, which now takes us to the balanced scorecard. So traditionally focus was on financial performance measures, which is historic information, but greater emphasis now is on non-financial measures, which are forward-looking. So in line with that, the balanced scorecard, stemming from our long-term strategic focus, looking at our vision and strategy, from there stems 4 components or 4 perspectives on which the balanced scorecard is hinged on. First quadrant is the learning and growth perspective, and under this perspective, in line with our vision and strategy, we'll be asking ourselves, how can we improve and create value? So this could be through innovation, for example, if we introduce new products. Another perspective, number 2, would be the internal business process perspective. Based on our vision, where must we excel? So in line with that, it looks at the internal measures of efficiency, for example, variances, quality, and time taken to do a certain task. Our third quadrant would be the customer perspective, which looks at how do customers see us. And our last perspective is the financial perspective, which looks at how do we look to shareholders. So only focusing on financial measures, looking at, for example, on profitability, may act simply to boost short-term profits and not act in the long-term best interest of the entity. Also, if the strategy of an entity is to have sustainability, there's need to bring that into measures, otherwise it is not implemented. So these are derived with strategy. So if our strategy is to have look at sustainable long-term growth, there's need to bring in measures that measure how far we've achieved that objective, otherwise it is not implemented. So for each component, we have specific performance measures and targets associated with it. So some of the advantages of the balanced scorecard, it will result in better personnel. So better personnel will translate into greater profits, which is going to maximize shareholders' wealth. And also, better total quality management programs will promote efficiencies, which will lead to increased customer satisfaction and therefore increased sales. Another advantage of implementing the balanced scorecard is it brings together into a single report 4 different aspects of a company's performing and allows strategic goals to be translated into performance measures. It also allows the managers to see the bigger picture, whether improvement in one area is at the expense of the other. And it is also a way of communicating the entity's strategy to employees and making it achievable. So, as we discussed, the balanced scorecard is stemming from the vision and strategy of the entity, which is then subdivided into those 4 quadrants. And as discussed earlier, each performance area with performance measures and targets. So the objectives, measures, targets, and initiatives are driven from this vision and strategy of the entity, and asking ourselves, for example, to achieve financially, how should we appear to shareholders under the financial perspective, and so on. Now let's link the balanced scorecard with other topics. So the balanced scorecard includes both financial and non-financial performance measures. So first of all, linking it with relevant costing, which is under decision making. Decisions that are made are based on relevant costs, for example, which is the financial measure, and other qualitative factors, which is your non-financial measures. So in making a decision, for example, whether we should produce internally or outsource our product, we base it on relevant costs, which is our financial measure, and other qualitative factors, which brings out the non-financial measure. So we need to also ensure decisions are being made are in line with the company's goals, that is in relation to EVA or residual income versus ROI. So return on investment, which is our ROI, may not be in line with the EVA or residual income and can be manipulated. So we need to ensure that our decisions are acting in the best interest of the entity as well. As we discussed in part 1, we might accept a project with a higher division, with a high project which is a higher return on investment than our divisional target, because the project will exceed the division's return on investment, but which is actually lower than the group's return on investment. So from a group, we should always consider, or we should always be acting in the best interest of the entity. So we need to ensure the decisions are made in line with the company's goals. Number 2, for transfer pricing, there is need to ensure that performance measures encourage staff to select a transfer price that results in the greatest profit and future growth or wealth of the entity, and not just a division. Right? Because divisions may act in their own best interests, but not in the best interests of the company. So, by us incorporating the balanced scorecard, it is going to help us through the non-financial measures to achieve goal congruence. Number 3, linking with standard costing. It is a form of performance evaluation on its own. That is the standard costing. When variances are being analyzed and actions are being taken, that is a form of performance evaluation on its own. So we can't evaluate a production manager on price variances. So we need to ensure that managers are evaluated on variances within their control. Standard costing is also more relevant in strategy, that is at cost leadership level. So as we discussed, the balanced scorecard is emanating from our strategy. So since standard costing is more relevant to the strategy, it will have a direct impact on the financial and non-financial performance measures. So when we are looking at our variances, we are looking at the financial measures, and when we are looking at evaluating managers on items within their control, and when we are talking about standard costing being more relevant to the strategy, of an entity, we are now talking about non-financial performance measures. Linking it again with other topics, last but not least, it can link with sustainability. So managers may want to perform well and meet or exceed targets, but cannot do so if they have adverse implications on the future generations. So performance measures should be structured to reward managers who support long-term sustainable growth of the company and those who consider additional stakeholders in coming up with their divisional targets. So that brings performance evaluation to the end. So if you have any questions or queries with regards to performance evaluation, please contact us on manfen@caa.ac.zw. So thank you for going through performance evaluation. Have a good day.